Next bill. You got a bill? Then we have Ms. Do you have another bill, Ms. Weber? Ms. Weber, please. Is that AB 812? Yes. AB 812, members. Here you go. You're back up.
I will be quick. Good evening. Finally, Mr. Chair and members, let me start by saying that I accept the committee's amendments reflected in the analysis as the author's amendment. I'd like to thank the staff for their thoughtfulness of the recommendations that are in large part based on her unique practical experience on this topic. As policymakers, we have a common and continuous goal to make sure that all students receive adequate and equitable academic instruction in order to give them every opportunity to succeed in California. Unfortunately, there's a group of students who still continue to struggle with what we call basic English, or because they lack proficiency in academic English. These students, though English speakers, do not have the skills necessary to both read and write the English language at an adequate level, making it difficult to succeed consistently in an academic setting. An extensive field test concluded the problems extended to comprehension, stating that students who are underprepared in academic English are less able to distinguish between important and unimportant information on lectures and texts. There has been some small successful programs in academic English mastery programs in LA Unified School District that adhere to this population, but there exists no formal large-scale effort to funnel these students into programs that can have positive effects on their long-term outcomes. Just to make sure we're all aware of this, what I'm talking about is if it's African-American students, we've all heard the controversy of Ebonics and speaking a separate language or blended English that really blends two languages together. And as a result, the students are never truly proficient in standard English, which is often reflected in test scores and other kinds of things, as well as just in public presentations. We're finding that to be equally true now for Latino students who are born in the United States who speak English, and yet at the end of 12 years, they're not really proficient in English. And it mainly has to do with us by not having what I did as a researcher, which was called bidialectical instruction, which basically looks at students who speak a different dialect and provide them with similar strategies as we do for kids who are English proficient, and provide them with the necessary bridges and strategies to produce a student who is competent in English. There is a program in LA Unified, but we also had the PEP program in LA, which is a proficient in English program. We had a similar one in San Diego for short periods of time. But we've never had a consistent program that really addresses this population, and as a result, we often wonder why is it that students who are born in this country who speak English actually score less on test scores than kids who will come into the country not speaking English. And the LA Unified School District has done a good job in beginning to focus on this in their English mastery program. What this bill would do would be the first step in order to obtain more information on this population by subject of a budget appropriation to support LA Unified School District in support of data collection, which is what they're doing now, an evaluation of their particular program in English language. This evaluation would support data collection and analysis focused around policy questions regarding identification, assessment, curriculum, instruction, professional development, and definitions of proficiency with a specific timeline for completion. I have with me today, this bill is supported by the NAACP, who have seen this as a major issue affecting African American children, and I think affecting all children in this country who speak English but have it come from a different language community. At this time, we'll have our speaker from the NAACP.
Greetings, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Edwin Perez, Ledge Advocate for the California NAACP. Historically, African Americans, particularly those in low-income neighborhoods, have underperformed in English language arts, and unfortunately, they miss out on a language-rich environment in their formative years. This makes it extremely difficult for some African American students to fully understand and absorb what's going on in the classroom when they actually are in school. This has a residual effects that can lead to many problems in the future. The Annie E. Casey Foundation has stated that students who do not read proficiently by the third grade are 4 times likelier to drop out of school. Subsequently, high school dropouts have a higher chance of getting arrested and going to prison. And an overwhelming number of juveniles who come into contact with the juvenile court system are functionally illiterate, and so are 60% of about 60% of all prison inmates. And if you look at the demographic of prisons in California, African Americans are largely overrepresented. The California NAACP, as well as our branches, have been continuously working on improving the literacy rates for our young kids, and we are proud to support this bill. AB 812 is a good first step that would help in identifying students that struggle with academic English and give them the opportunity to take full advantage of their resources at their disposal, and help them reach their full potential. On behalf of the California Hawaii State NAACP, we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Move the bill.
Any further support? Okay. Any opposition? Any witnesses in opposition? Please come forward.
I'm going to say good evening, Chair O'Donnell and members of the committee. My name is Norma Sanchez. I'm speaking on behalf of the California Teachers Association. And I actually have to say this is actually something close to me. While I hear the thoughts and the points of the author, I myself was an English learner. I myself grew up in an impoverished area where I went to my local schools and was able to have amazing teachers that helped me develop my language proficiency, and then attended UCLA, got 2 majors, was actually a teacher in LA Unified, an elementary school teacher, and had students that range from all English language proficiencies. So I had limited English proficient students in my classroom. I then went on to get 2 masters and my doctorate from Columbia, and then I was a UCLA professor, and actually one of my students from UCLA last year was an LA County Teacher of the Year, and him himself was an English learner. And so while we definitely support the assessment of students and their development of language, and we also definitely support resources allocated to these students, we have an opposition to this bill because it would seemingly create a new assessment and duplicate assessment tool for assessing English language proficiency for pupils of limited English proficiency. Currently, students in kindergarten through grade 12 whose primary language is not English are required to be assessed in English language proficiency. In California, that assessment is the California English Language Development Test, or the CELT. In November of 2012, our state adopted new and more comprehensive English language development standards. These standards are more comprehensive in that they define a continuum for proficiency that has 3 areas in which students will be determined as emerging, expanding, and bridging. Our Department of Education is currently in the process of developing and implementing a new English language assessment to align to our new English language development standards. That memo outlining the timeline is attached to our letter and will be presented at the upcoming State Board meeting. For these reasons, this bill is unnecessary as our department is taking the steps towards developing and implementing a tool that will assess students of limited language proficiency.
Thank you. Let me just comment right now, because this may save a little bit of effort. And Ms. Weber, you can weigh in, but this bill has been heavily amended.
Yes.
As I understand it.
Exactly.
And, yes, and it actually, it's a requirement for an evaluation of the LAUSD academic English mastery program. That's what the bill calls for. Do you just want to explain that real quick?
Yeah, we went away from basically trying to do this because of the fact that many of the standards and assessment tools and those kinds of things are not available. So what we've done, and as I mentioned, the bill has been gutted, and what we're now talking about is funding the work that LA Unified School District is doing around the issue of academic English mastery. They've been doing this program for a while. They're now at a point where they're trying to do some assessments, evaluation of the effectiveness of it, develop some strategies and things that we can then, once we look at it and we help to fund that study, then we can look at that as possible policy for what we may want to do at the state level. Keeping in mind, this is not about English language learners. These are kids who speak English, but they don't speak standard English, as some would say. It's the issue we had some while ago when Oakland was trying to do Ebonics, or not even teach, and people got it all confused because they weren't teaching Ebonics. They were saying these students speak a separate language. And because we have ignored it for so long, or just assumed that they would eventually get it, they don't hear the difference, they don't hear the difference pronunciation, they don't hear the different grammar, and it's in their homes and their communities, so they never become proficient in English. I was fortunate in being raised in the projects of Los Angeles to have African American teachers who understood what I was saying and developed strategies to help me in my own pronunciation and help me hear the difference between my home language and my school language, so that I could become what they call bidialectically coordinated, which means I can speak Ebonics and Standard English. I hear the difference, I know the difference, and I can code switch without confusion. Many people can't do that. And so they are confounded by dialectically. And what we're trying to do is help them. This is standard research that's been going on for about 40, 50 years. And as a result, because we refuse to address the problem, it has not gone away. It continues to grow. And now we're seeing it growing in our Latino population. And so this is a totally different, so this is a research effort to try to help LA do its research so we can then take that research and then do a better job. And what the state is doing with English language learners is they're developing their plans, their programs, and that's wonderful. But it will never touch this population.
Thank you for that clarification.
Can I speak real quickly? We just don't want to include additional assessments for these students.
Well, I think this
not
is
the same
I don't
students.
think that's what she's doing here today. I think she's asking for an evaluation of a
assessment.
practice that is occurring in the Los Angeles Unified School District, because I think she thinks it's, having some success. And later on we may adopt it at the state level. Who knows what we
Okay.
may do with it? We don't know at this point, but I think she's asking for an assessment
Yes.
of that.
And we're
effort
talking
in
about two
LAUSD.
different populations of students.
Right.
These students would never be in an English language learner
And I get it.
environment.
Okay.
Because
You
I
get
taught
it,
those
because they
students,
speak
so-
it. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I
Those,
know. I'm ground
those
zero.
know it. Yeah,
So-
exactly. They would never be in an English language learner program.
Right. Right. And their home language often is English, right?
It is English. That's all they know. They don't speak in their mind. They speak English.
It's not quote unquote standard English.
No, exactly.
Great. So I don't know if
Yeah, no, I think we're in agreement with that. I'm Liz Esquivel Waterman. I've been a teacher for 25 years. I teach in a very small district, Terabella Elementary, and in my district, we have 98% language learners. And as a fourth grade teacher, I see students coming in, second generation Spanish speakers who are still at SOUT level 3. So yes, we understand as a teacher the frustration there, but also I think we are in agreement with the fact that we don't want an additional assessment in terms of determining, these kids don't know how to speak standard English. We know that, and so that's what our concern is. Also, I think something else to bring to your attention is the confusion between academic English proficiency and academic language proficiency. And often these two terms are confused, and they're not the same register of English, which is something you were speaking to. Academic language refers to the oral, written, auditory, and visual language proficiency required to learn effectively in schools and academic programs. So, for example, it's a language I use in my classroom, in my lessons, in the books and texts and assessments. It's the language that the students are expected to learn and achieve their fluency in.
Thank
right?
you. Great, good job. And I think Ms. Weber agrees with you, although I think at some point there would have to be an assessment. I think maybe
Yes.
her
Right.
point is that there is no assessment to determine, where certain kids are.
Exactly.
Okay, with that, can we go to members of the public?
With all due respect, I'm not familiar with all of the amendments, but as a teacher, my name is Peter Manette. I am a teacher. I'm also in state council and the service center chair. Teachers all over the state are being trained in the utilization of academic language within the classroom. It's
Okay,
part of our
Mr. Manette, just if you could just sum it up real quick.
presently opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Shantae Fauntleroy, Hayward Unified School District, opposed.
Thank you. Great. Any members of the committee wish to comment? Seeing no comment, Ms. Weber, you may close.
Yes, we know that the science dictates that these students need targeted language development instruction due to aforementioned detrimental outcomes, but the mechanics are not yet in place. This bill would provide us the opportunity to explore the issue in depth so that we can have the information we need to contemplate and to deliver the best services for the children. I appreciate the work of the committee staff and the department that's worked with us to arrive at this and to give us the information concerning LA Unified. We'll continue to work on that, but I respectfully ask for your aye vote for this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. The motion is do pass as amended to appropriations.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim? Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Santiago, aye. Thurman? Thurman, aye. Weber? Weber, aye.
Sorry? The bill is out. With that, we'll go to Mr. Thurman. File item 20, AB 1025. It's file item 19. File item 19. The last one, I believe. So, Mr. Thurman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. It's an honor to present AB 1025. I'd like to start by saying that I accept the committee's amendments. Tonight, we spoke about situations where students might have mental health needs and that people would be trained to identify that. In many ways, you could think of this as a complementary effort to that. This is an opportunity to bring trained, master's level clinicians to our schools to work directly with students on whatever their needs might be, whether that be a mental health need, a special education need, or to help support a school climate intervention. This bill is about early intervention for our youngest school-age children because nearly 1 in 4 youth are living in poverty, and it's estimated that 20% of our youth are in need of mental health intervention. Young people in particular who are in foster care, young people who've been abused, neglected, who've experienced violence, who've experienced trauma, have demonstrated these great needs. They have emotional and behavioral needs that sometimes go unrecognized and misunderstood. Often this gets in the way of their ability to learn, and sadly kids might drop out and sadly end up in the criminal justice system. Our system sometimes can be fragmented. It's hard to blend and balance the needs of education and our mental health systems, and the problem gets worse. But if we do early intervention, we can ensure success for our young people. The school setting is the perfect opportunity and setting to make sure that youth get these services. We can reduce barriers for our young people and reduce the stigma that's often assisted with getting help. But sadly, we know most of our schools don't have any counselors, so this is an opportunity to do that. 1025 is about our children, and I ask for your I vote. Tonight, we have a number of witnesses who will share with you briefly what's working, because they know for a fact. Immediately to my right is Mr. Ken Barrick, who is a school board member for the Alameda County Office of Education, but in his day job, he is the executive director of Seneca Youth and Family Centers that does school-based mental health in communities throughout the state. And to my far right, he is to my far right. To my immediate right is Rusty Seelix, who is one of the authors of the Mental Health Services Act and is here to speak on these two items. Please accept the testimony from these two witnesses.
Thank you. Rusty Seelix for the California Council of Community Mental Health Agencies, Mental Health Association of California, and the Steinberg Institute in support. Mr. Barrick brought this concept to me a few years ago of a partnership between counties and schools to bring support to classroom teachers to identify mental health problems at the earliest possible instance. The results kept kids out of higher-end parts of special education, resulting in savings to both schools and counties. The purpose of this bill is to take that model, which also the exact same model in a rural part of San Bernardino County, same results. Savings to both schools and counties, everybody wins. Unfortunately, these are, at this time, the only pilots that are testing this. The purpose of this bill is to broaden this concept and create broad awareness, because if it works as well elsewhere as it does in these places, then more counties and schools will partner to do this. Thank you.
Members of the committee, Ken Barrick, Seneca Family of Agencies. I want to be clear about what this bill is and what it is not. This is not a new categorical. This is not a way to add additional funding. What this bill does is it takes existing funding streams and restructures them so that students can be included in schools rather than excluded, and sent down a progressive path of exclusion because it allows for earlier intervention in the school. It requires a commitment of the school to keep all of their students rather than send them to other sites. And it brings mental health, special education, and school climate, school culture funding together in a restructure. It's only necessary to do legislation because starting this project requires a major rethink and changes the way a school thinks about their students. So we have to fund the inception of it so that we can then redirect existing funding. It is a much more effective use of special education, mental health, and school climate, school culture funding.
Yeah, and I'm Dave Gordon. I work as the county superintendent here in Sacramento. I used to be the district superintendent in the Elk Grove School District, where we piloted a lot of early intervention approaches. And I'd just like to echo, this is not a new categorical, it's just a time-limited pilot project to see if we can intervene early enough so as to head off the need for more serious and costly interventions down the road and save money, certainly, but more to the point, to save the need for students to go down a path that will harm them, and instead we would be helping them early on, as early as we possibly could reach them.
Further support? Brad Strong with Children Now, also a member of the State Superintendent's Mental Health Policy Work Group. Children Now in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher Castrillo on behalf of the California Academy of Child Adolescent Psychiatry. We feel that school-based mental health services, early intervention supports are an essential piece to a child's education, and we thank the Assembly member and are in strong support.
Danielle Molay, California Alliance of Child and Family Services, in support.
Trudy Schaefer, representing the League of Women Voters of California. Our members did a statewide study, extensive study in the late 90s of the juvenile justice and dependency systems in California, and as the chair of that study said, we could have written this book. It's exactly what our position calls for.
Great.
This bill. Thank you.
Great. Anybody in opposition to Mr. Thurman? Any members of the committee wish to comment?
Quick question.
Ms. Weber.
And somewhere in the analysis says this is a new categorical program, but you're saying it's not a categorical program. Okay.
It is not. It is not a categorical program.
Okay. How would it be funded? Is it out of the existing funds of the school?
Existing funding streams. What we would do is we would take existing EPSDT, which is currently available for Medi-Cal eligible youth in schools, and rather than forcing kids to come out of the school in order to get those services, which is typically much later and much less accessible, we would bring that into the schools. Then we would take special education funds, and rather than forcing kids to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years behind, if they qualify for special ed, we provide earlier intervention that would be integrated with those mental health services. Those interventions by themselves are not effective if there isn't an overall arching school climate, school culture effort that says we want to be inclusive and we want to keep our students here. So this would take regular education funding and focus a school climate, school culture effort that creates an inclusive environment that allows schools to keep their students.
Now, those who get in the pilot would have to agree to this doing with their money? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how it matches. So if a school decides they want to do it, then they are agreeing that to use their resources to accomplish this goal. Is that correct?
Not just the school. The mental health department.
Mental health departments and others in the city.
Exactly.
Almost like health clinics, basically.
Exactly.
They have to use their resources to do this.
That's right. It's not going to work in very many places unless the county also comes to the table and agrees to place clinicians on campus. That's the key to making this work.
Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out what we need the bill at this level, if it's all going to be revolved around the county boards and the local districts, because, I mean, it's kind of like local districts doing health clinics and things like that. If they choose to do it and they work their own resources, they can make it happen. You know, I'm just, you know, in other words, if something gets stuck up here, which it often happens in a PROPS or wherever it may be, I was just trying to figure out how this was all going to happen. It sounds good.
Yeah, we need the bill because right now special education is all centralized, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to say no special ed administrator, no school business officer is going to believe that by using these funds on campus, in a more streamlined intervention, that they will save those special ed dollars until we demonstrate that by having those services on site, readily accessible at the schools, the teachers, the students, and the parents' disposal, that we in fact will save the special ed dollars. So we do need an infusion of upfront dollars to say we'll demonstrate that this works, so that the district is comfortable that their special ed investment will be protected and not just doubled.
And the infusion comes from where?
From that's the funding in the legislation. It's
So
one
it
time
is funded by
decreasing
us.
one-time decreasing funding.
Okay. Out of what pot?
Over 3 years. Go ahead, Rusty.
We're just seeking funding in the budget, one-time money, whatever may be available from Prop 98 or the general fund, whatever may be available to fund this.
Okay, and is there an amount on it?
It's $600,000 per site. The recommendation is that to create a critical mass, that the ideal number would be 30 sites statewide.
30 sites at $600,000 each?
But as this bill is written, it talks about 15 schools in the pilot. It talks about 15 schools.
At $300,000 each?
600,000 each.
600,000 each for 15 schools?
Over the course of 3 years. Over the course of 3 years.
So like 9 million going down, something like that?
9 million total over 3 years to fund 15 pilots.
So the funding decreases. It starts at 250, then goes down to 2, then 150. So that after the third year, it's the expectation that the district would take full responsibility with existing funds.
And it's believed that if the program works as thought, then other districts and other counties would see that it pays for itself and be willing to do this without the additional money up front.
Okay.
Make that happen, Ms. Weber. All right.
Well, I was just going to say I may vote for it with no commitment to the money.
All right. With that, seeing no further comment from the committee, Mr. Thurman, you may close.
I would simply just say that prior to coming here to the legislature, I spent the last 4 years working for an agency just like Mr. Barrick's. It's called Lincoln Child Center. And that agency works with very young kids who often have been impacted by trauma and violence in the community, in the home, or by being in foster care, and brings direct services to them where they can be served in their school without stigma, with staff who have cultural competency and who have the training and the ability to serve those young people. And for the little bit that we're proposing to do, there are so many more who need the support, and this is a great start. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have a motion? I'll move the bill. It's been moved and seconded.
I'll second that.
Okay. Ms. Weber moves and Ms. Kim seconds. With that, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass with amendments to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Aye. Santiago, aye. Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye. It's out.
The bill is out. Thank you. So we can
Need the
adjourn back.
consent, no, we need.
We still need to move the consent calendar. The consent calendar has been moved. So let me read the consent calendar into the record. Item number 4, AB 288, due pass to appropriations. Item number 5, AB 306, due pass as amended to appropriations. Item number 10, AB 625, due pass as amended to appropriations. Item number 16, AB 934, due pass to appropriations. Item number 25, AB 1145, due pass as amended to appropriations. Item number 26, AB 1153, due pass to appropriations. Item number 32, AB 1428, due pass to appropriations. So we will call the roll on the consent calendar.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez?
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Santiago, aye. Thurmond?
Aye.
Thurmond, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye.
The consent calendar is out. And then Assemblymember Kim has requested reconsideration of AB 523. Without objection, that is granted.
Thank you. And do we have to vote on that?
We don't need to vote on that.
Okay. And then I also would like to ask for reconsideration on AB 734.
AB 734?
Yes.
Okay, without objection, that is granted. We have 2 bills on call. AB 710, Ms. Brown, the recommendation is,
They're going to call roll.
so the motion is do pass as amended to appropriations. That's AB 710. The chair's vote was an aye on AB 710 by Ms. Brown. Do pass as amended to appropriations.
Okay, Chavez?
No.
Chavez, no. Santiago?
Aye.
Santiago, aye. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Weber?
Aye.
Weber, aye. That's 5-2, the bill's out.
Okay. AB 734, the motion is do pass to appropriations. The chair's vote was a no on AB 734.
Santiago? No. Santiago, no. Weber?
Give me a moment. I'm trying to find it.
AB 734.
What number is that? What item?
Item number 11.
Item number 11.
My bill.
Item 12 on here.
Okay, it's item 12 on here. Okay. Okay. No, okay, I think, yeah. I just would, yeah, I would love to hear the conversation. I'm not voting.
Weber not voting.
Okay, do you, okay. With that, this meeting is adjourned.